We're going live this morning. Here we are. It's the Accountability Monday. I'm a bit late to myself today because I left things to the last minute to try and get up and running. And I got Johnny on. How you doing, Johnny?
Yeah, good, all good. How you doing? Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, mate. Loud and clear. Let's get rid of these
Bugs.
AirPods because I didn't realise I didn't need them. So, how you doing, John? You doing well?
Yeah, knackered. Yeah, because I had to go
Are
for
you
a run.
knackered? It's Monday morning.
I had to go for a run this morning.
You sorry?
Well, I committed to going for a run, didn't I?
Did you go for a run?
And I had to do it this morning at 6:30 this morning. So
Mate, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Really.
So I mean, like, it had to be done, didn't it?
Well, listen, I'm gonna give you a big thumbs up there, John. Well done. I'm impressed with that because we. Yeah, I'm blown away because I knew you'd been really busy. I know you've been really busy.
Honestly, but full on yesterday because it was my granddaughter's birthday.
Oh wow!
So we didn't get back, and I thought, I was trying to find times to sneak this run in, and of course, just these windows of opportunity disappear. And I thought, that's it. I'm bloody jumping on a call with you this morning. So I thought, only opportunity I got is a 6:30 run. So that was it. Yeah, and today's been.
It really comes down to the principle of this accountability network, which is if you know you're going to be called out on something, then you know, and you're genuine about it, and you really want to do something, and someone's going to be talking to you, and you know you're going to have to face the music, so to speak. It forces you to do something, even if it's the last minute. Because you said one run last week. I mean, I'm sure next week it's going to be two, not one. So you can't do two runs on Monday morning next week.
Well, I think you always learn, don't you, from things. It's one is that obviously, like I think we covered it yesterday. Is like the last thing I wanted to do this morning was go for a run. It was just like but it had to be done. So you do that, and then obviously you're doing it. It's really hard. So it immediately tells me I'm just so unfit, and I need to go into Strava to find the last time I did a run. But obviously now I've got some data, so I run for like 15 minutes this morning, done about 1.5k or something like that. It was
right.
I thought, right, when I got back, I'd just take a reference point. I'll just jump on the scales because I need a bit of data now. And the shock was the scale said, "Is this the same person?"
Is this?
So immediately my weight's just shot right up.
Wow.
So I've got too much data now, so that's it now. So it's like, healthy blitz getting back.
And this is really leading me in, and we haven't had a chat yet on what we're going to be talking about today. You know, I was racking my brains over the weekend because, as you know, we had an event on Saturday that was full on. I was absolutely shattered yesterday because I had an injury on my chest, and it's causing me no end of grief. But I was sitting there yesterday thinking, what are we going to talk about this morning? What's a great thing? And then it came to me, well, you just hit the nail on the head, really. You've got to lose some weight, but you're coming up to a period where it's what I call silly season. It's the holiday season, and so people are going to be sticking mince pies in front of you and God knows what else, and you're going to have to be saying, actually, I don't want a mince pie because otherwise I'll have to do 3 runs this week to get the weight off, right? So it leads really nicely onto that fact of being accountable when things are coming up and are going to be challenging.
Yeah, 100%.
So how are you going to get round that one?
What, as in?
Silly season coming up, and
Well, I'll be really
shocked before Christmas, before you weighed yourself after.
Well, I'm going to get now. I've got what's that? 5 weeks, and so I've got 5 weeks to get ahead of the curve. But I don't think that's I think it's good. I'm going to have to go through the pain to get there. But once you go through the pain, then when someone sticks a mince pie, you know what you got to do, don't you? You just got to say no, haven't you? To a point, you just got to like, do I really need to have another 2,000 calories stuck in my body, really? But it's also coming back to, it's just the little things, isn't it? It's just you just get into bad habits, don't you? Because obviously, and also it's like eating you know, that it's eating clean, isn't it? It's like the more food rubbish you have, the food industry is so clever at putting stuff in that just make, you know, you can't have you know, you try opening a Pringle packet and just having 2 Pringles, isn't it? Things like that. It's just so no, definitely I'm just going to but to me it's like getting back into things like Strava, what's it, MyFitnessPal. It's the data, isn't it? Once you start looking at the data, then you think you don't look at the biscuit as like a real chocolate treat. You look on it as like 156 calories.
I think the good thing, so people are aware, if you're not into running, cycling, or generally keeping fit, Strava's an app that's quite good at tracking, and it's quite good for a social. It's like a social media app for people who are fittish. So if you go for a run and you put it on Strava, you can see your stats on there. You can see other people and give them kudos. So that's a good app for if you are looking to get into fitness, or you know, if you haven't got Strava, it's worth looking at if you do run and you haven't got it, or if you're starting to run. So I always find, well, we spoke about it over the weekend. My Garmin watch is one of my crackers, because it tracks everything I do, and I wear it constantly. I don't even wear a normal watch now. It's only a tracker watch. I mean, it's a proper watch, but you know, it's a tracker. And I think with these apps, it does help you. But what you're saying about you know, people shoving food in, everywhere you go, you're going to be tempted to eat, and you're right. The food industry is very clever at tricking your body into thinking you want more, and so it continues to want more. I did a technique a while ago where I linked up beetroot with certain things I was eating, which I didn't. I loved ice cream. I love desserts, and I'd shovel it down my throat. And I got to a stage where I knew I'd put a stone on. I've lost a stone in the last couple of months. I put a stone on, and I just linked it up to eating beetroot, and imagine the Ripple ice cream with the Ripple being beetroot rather than raspberry Ripple, and it made me feel physics. I'm even reaching now thinking about it, and that's a good technique, because if you don't want to eat too much, or you've got a food you don't like, just link up something that you don't like to eating that food. Because I think this is the thing, and self-discipline is really difficult sometimes when you're denying yourself something that you really enjoy. Does that make sense? And it all comes into the same theme, really, which is, okay, so I've got to be disciplined with what I throw down my throat. Also, I've got to be disciplined with my time, because that's the other thing that I need to talk about is, if we're going to hold people accountable, hold you or I to account, then we need to be looking at strategies to try and manage our time and say no to a few things, because people do get FOMO this time of year. You know that, don't you?
Yeah, massively. Have you hit the record button as well before? We live, just in case, because
we are live. Yeah, I think we are live. Yeah, I can see us
make sure
live on I'm looking at the other screen now. Yeah,
fine.
That would be a bit silly. We've done that before.
No, we do that. We have, exactly. Yeah. So no, definitely. I mean, I think time is time. It's data, isn't it? It all comes back down to data, isn't it? Data. You know, what's the old thing, isn't it? If you don't measure it, you can't manage it, and that's it, isn't it? But also, it's like it's certain things as well, isn't it? It's like that thing you say, oh, if you have a load more food, you've got to go for 3 runs or 4 runs. But what did they say? You can't outrun a Paul diet. So it comes back to, you know, it's like a computer system, isn't it? Quality in, quality out. So definitely got to but I mean, it's like, what's it? The fear of doing something, isn't it? So, and then you get, you know, I think it's statistically, isn't it? Males are quite obsessed with things, isn't it? They say when you go to a gym or something like that, blokes tend to go full on with PT instructors, and they get they'll go from something like nothing to getting really obsessed with the gym, which I suppose you can see.
Is that just males, or is that really coming down to the individual that does that, as opposed to the difference between a female and a male? I think that's more to do with the individual. It's just you see it more with males only because maybe there's a higher gym attendance with males, because I think that's in life. I think I've got that trait of obsessive nature, which came from my dyslexia, and I remember having that trait when I was a kid, and it was deemed a negative trait, as opposed to, I see that as an entrepreneurial trait. It's, that obsession of focus, because that's something that we can all try and learn, is that and we all do it to a degree. We all do it in our different ways. It's just some are more obvious than others, I think.
Well, they also, so I think it was also, isn't it, one of these, when people used to go for jobs and things like that, used to do these like little psychometric tests, isn't it? They would ask, it'd literally be like a 5-minute question set or something like that, and then they'd print out 20 pages of information on you, and you think, Jesus, that's so accurate from 5 minutes. But I remember one of the questions used to be like, have you ever lost more than a stone in weight, or a stone and a half in weight? Because I think they obviously relate to that if someone's actually achieved to that goal, then they can do more things than they put their mind to it, because they've obviously set themselves a goal, and I presume it gets to a point where it's like, once you get over a stone or a stone and a half, then to get to that, you've gone through quite a process. So you've not bailed out of it. So, I think that's obviously definitely a character trait, which these psychosomatic tests or whatever they call them.
Yeah, I think also with when you look at data, or you look at apps that track things and stuff like that, I think you get a ping and you get a hit of dopamine, and I do love to see. I mean, I haven't seen it for a few weeks now, but I was getting to a stage where I was doing 6-7 rides a week on my bike, and I was looking at a 7-day average, and I wanted to make sure I was doing 200 miles in a 7-day average, and I got really obsessed with doing 200 miles. If I didn't do the 200 miles, I'd be, oh no, come on. And some weeks you didn't do it, some weeks you did, but at least it kept you near that target. It kept you really up there, and so So if we look at, we're looking forward to the holiday season, and we've got these. We know that the majority of people are going to eat too much. We're going to be, and I will say that food does affect your moods, right? There's no question about that. Alcohol affects your moods, and we know if anyone's listening to this recording or this live feed, they're entrepreneurial spirit, so they're going to be having something to be held accountable for, knowing full well these things are going to come up. So what's a big tip really for people to keep on track of their objectives? What would you recommend? What do you do?
Well, I mean this is where you can use things. I mean, things like ChatGPT, and we touched on it before. But I mean, like now, first thing I've got, I've got a weight this morning. I mean, it's heavy. It's like, so it shocked me. But first thing I'm going to do is basically saying, I'm going to type in something like, for a bit of a laugh, what do I need to do to lose like 5 kgs before Christmas?
Right.
Because you've got to put, so you're putting a little plan together, aren't you? So I'm saying, right. So it's almost like, so 5 kgs, you think, well, that's the starting point, isn't it? So I just want to, because at the end of the day, if we don't see any, if the needle doesn't start moving, then you think, why am I going through all this pain for no reason? So, but 5 kgs in 5 weeks, it's only a kg a week. But if I don't do anything, I'll come to, 23rd of December or something, I'll still be fat. I'm fat shaming myself here, but I know. But come on. But no, I mean, and then it comes back to data, isn't it? So it's just literally taking reference points, and doing things and adjusting things. So if you can't plan. So the plan is like, obviously it's simple, isn't it? I mean, they always used to say, isn't it? I remember going to a wedding once, and I sat opposite this guy, and he was like run his own. I think he had about 3 or 4 gyms or something like that. And and I said, "What's can you give us give us a top tip?" And he's like, "Eat less, move more." And,
it's a basic principle, but I think it's interesting because you've hit a point there which is really important. It's not just about you losing 5 kilograms. Where we can extrapolate up to other things, and I'll give you an example of that. Is when I wanted to write my book all them years ago. I did some research. So we didn't have ChatGPT then, right? So we had just the ordinary internet, right? So, and just in case people aren't aware, you don't have to use something like artificial intelligence to do that for you. You can still search it. And I searched how to write a book, and I came across someone who'd written some stuff about how to write a book in 10 days or less on any subject. And I downloaded that, and that information got, and I wrote the book really quickly. So it's about doing that research about for whatever you want to achieve or whatever issues that you may have or challenge. How can I overcome that challenge? And just doing a search on Google. And Google's very powerful nowadays. And in your background, you've got artificial intelligence running it anyway. So I think it's a good strategy to have, because it can be overwhelming if you've got to lose 5 kg is no mean feat. I mean, I know it's for those who don't work in kilograms, right? There's 2.2 pounds to a kilo, so you're looking about losing 12 pounds. 5 kgs. Wait, is it 11-12 pounds?
Yeah.
So so in pounds over a month, you're getting off 3/4 of a stone, and that's a tall order. And so to some people that would be, I can't lose more than a pound a week, but as we all know, when you start something, you do lose weight quite quickly in the first, usually couple of weeks, don't you? So, but it's having that foresight to say, okay, so I'm going to do some research on this and find out, so get some tools to help me and get a strategy going, because it does make a lot of difference. So you make a really valid point there, John, really valid point about searching and getting the information.
Well, I think nowadays, isn't it? There's just no, you hear about obviously a lot of youngsters. I think a while ago. I mean, it came out, I think, during Brexit. I mean, I know you don't like using the B word,
no,
but
I don't.
But a lot of people are like, our rights are being taken away from us to travel around Europe and stuff like that, and then the people are saying about there's not much opportunity for young people and things like that. But I was on sort of quite vocal on Facebook at the time, and a couple of these young people, and I was like, but how have you put 50 letters of what you want to do? If you've gone around local trading estates, there's so many businesses out there. What have you actually done to get you an opportunity? Because there are, and I just think, and I think you mentioned it ages ago, that it's probably the most easiest time ever to set up a business, isn't it? And it's not for lack of knowledge. I mean, there's so much information.
I wouldn't say it was easy. I would say it was the simplest time to set up a business, because it's not hard in that respect to set something up. It's, if you're tech minded, look at the amount of people that make money out of YouTube or influencers or something, where they just come out from nowhere, and people create businesses from that. You can create business from your bedroom. It's that simple nowadays. In the old days, you would need premises, you'd need stock, and you don't even need inventory nowadays. You can literally someone else can fulfill it for you. So affiliate marketing, and there's so many things that people can do nowadays. But I think our audience may not be in that position of and that brings me on to my next thing I was going to talk about, was some real tips for fledgling or startup businesses. because I know there's quite a few people I've spoken to who have got a fledgling business or just starting their business, and they're taking that first step, and it's quite daunting trying to find your first client, or sell your first bits of product. And I think I'd like to sort of touch on that really, because I think again making these people accountable. People are going to be sitting here listening to this Accountability Monday. How can we help them stay on track and keep focused? Because I think one of the biggest challenges I find with fledgling or new startups is that is getting from concept to actually getting the business rolling, where it's bringing in money, and it may be a concept in someone's head, it might be an idea, it might be whatever the case may be. They haven't actually taken that real first step, and it brings me to a reminder of someone I know a few years ago who was, I'm going to start this new business up. I'm going to go and register a company at company's house. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I'm listening to all the things they were telling me, and I just said the most important thing about a business is getting clients, because he was in the helping people industry. I think it was personal trainer. I think. So the hardest thing it's going to be is getting the clients in the first place. It doesn't matter what else you put in place, all the qualifications and all that business. How are you going to get clients? So what's your tips for keeping someone focused in challenging times? In and it's not just challenging in business environment, it's the challenges mentally.
Of course, I mean that's a hard one, isn't it? I mean, I think you've got to have a team around you. I mean, we go on it, isn't it? I mean, at the end of the day, if I hadn't committed to going on a run with you last week, I would have just stayed in bed for an extra half an hour, wouldn't I? That wouldn't have happened. So obviously that action now has consequences, because it's given me information that I can react on. So certainly you've got to. I mean, it depends. I mean, there's so many things, so many facets with business, isn't it? Because you've got to, I mean, you're very good at putting yourself in other people's positions. So if you're running a business, you've got to find clients, like you just said, but you've got to typically occupy where your clients are. Another good thing is, how many entrepreneurial businesses have started because the person was trying to find something and they couldn't, or they found something and it was working really, really poorly. So they thought, I can do a better job, or that service doesn't have. So they can immediately, they've got an advantage because they can immediately relate to their avatar, to their typical client, because they've had that pain. They've gone through that pain. Is that I wanted this service, the service I was using was shit, or the service didn't exist. So I've gone out and found it. So I would think they've got a massive head start because they are their client. So they've just got to find more of them.
It's interesting because years and years ago, I think it would come back to saying earlier about the times that we live in, and it's simpler today to start a business up. You've got a marketplace in front of you with social media that you can get in front of many, many people. And I was only having this conversation about the silent majority of people on social media. It looks like everyone's commenting, but actually you'll be surprised who are watching, and the majority don't comment. So you've got this huge window to show or present your service or goods or whatever today, whereas before, if you wanted to advertise a product or service, you'd have to find a trade mag, or you'd need a massive budget to advertise on radio or television. Whereas today you don't need that. You can literally do it on social media platforms. Now, the key, I think, on any business is showcasing what you can do without ramming it down someone's throat that I'm trying to sell you something. Because I think that's the thing I find with social media. I go on there and I get pretty peed off with someone's trying to sell something somewhere along the line, and you've got to do it in a way where it's less invasive, because they may want your service or goods, but they don't necessarily want it rammed down their throat. And it always reminds me of, do you remember the old multi-level marketing, like and the such companies like that, where someone had bought into that, and then all of a sudden they were trying to sell everybody their wares. So it's trying to be subtle about it without ramming it down someone's throat. So, but you've got this wonderful marketplace in front of you. It's just positioning yourself in a way where people take notice of you, and if you've got a good service, like you were suggesting, that someone's found an area where they can relate to, they've been through it, and they put themselves in the client's shoes, it's how would that client like to receive the information? And I think it's challenging for people to try and understand what it's like for the other person, the other side of the screen. Because if I'm doing a video, or if I'm doing some sort of marketing, how do I engage with that person? And unless you can put yourself in their shoes, it's very, very difficult. So there's some very, very valid points there about how, and keeping on track of it, I think mentally is tough, because having started up numerous ventures in the past, the hardest thing is getting going. I think it's taking that first step into doing something that's actually going to get you a client or a sale of some kind. And I think I'm quite bold, and this, whatever we call it, like a podcast live feed every week. If you go back to the very first original one, I didn't know who was going to turn up. I didn't know how many people were going to look at it. I didn't know how much engagement we was going to have. I didn't know what I was going to talk about. I just took that first step, knowing full well, if I continue doing it every week, this will grow, right? Having that confidence it's going to grow, and not worrying about whether I look a bit stupid, whether I'm worried, someone's going to judge me for, your content isn't done in the right way, or you haven't done SEO, or whatever people do nowadays on their videos. It didn't worry me, and I think that's the biggest challenge I find with a lot of youngsters or people starting a fledgling or new business. That doesn't just go for youngsters. I know a lot of people a lot older starting a new career. It's worrying about feeling a bit silly or stupid, or what people are going to judge you for. They're going to judge you regardless, whether you get it right or wrong. So you might as well just do it anyway. Just start. Yeah. And it's simple as far as I'm concerned. A simple process. It's just overcoming them things in your head, isn't it?
Yeah, no, 100%. It is, and I think it is, isn't it? And I think perhaps, it's quite interesting. I think when we were interviewing for Small Staff a while ago, and I think sometimes there's I am going back to youngsters, so it's not definitely pick on youngster day, but it's just it's just relevant. But I do think with the advent of social media and them hooking themselves up to a lot of false stuff out there, because they're all seeing just very tiny, lots and lots and lots of tiny snippets of successes, aren't they? Because it's your happiest moment and stuff like that. In the main, people put on stuff like that. But I think there's definitely a fear of failure from I think that's coming through from younger people. I
don't think that's younger people, John. I think that's general. I honestly do think that's general.
Yeah, okay, but and so I think so that that just paralyzes people to take action. It's almost like analysis paralysis, isn't it? It's like I'm not gonna. Whereas one of the best books in sales, that's for sure, was that book Go for No, where he actually makes outbound. I think he's like a photocopier salesperson, but he instead of just trying to ring up customers and getting a yes, can I explain about my product? He's actually physically targeting no's, because he said if I wanted to get 3 or 4 yeses, as soon as I got my 3 yeses, I could get them on a Tuesday afternoon. I wouldn't make any more phone calls.
Yeah, and I think that's very, very different nowadays. I think it's a different world that we live in. But I think, as we was talking there, I just reminded me, it can easily be overwhelming when you're seeing some of your competitors and they're making a lot of noise, because it's easy to see someone online and think they're everywhere. You're everywhere because they're on your feeds. They might be on your Instagram feed. They might be on your Facebook feed. They might be on your YouTube feed. And you think they're everywhere. They're successful, but they might be spending lots of money or just doing lots of things differently to everybody else, as opposed to, oh, I haven't got that, I can't do that, or it intimidates someone thinking I don't really want to go down that route. But it doesn't mean to say they're successful just because they're doing more than you are. I think the key is, and I was talking to a good friend of mine, James Lavers, and we was talking about, building an audience and customers and what have you. And he said, you don't need massive amounts of names and stuff. If you've got a loyal following, if you've got a genuine, and you attract the right people, you don't need to be big and huge. You can make a good living with a core amount of people, small core amount of people. So I think it's easy to get lost in the noise nowadays. Definitely,
yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely a lot of noise out there.
Well, listen, it's half already. I can't believe half hour's gone. So
no.
This is Accountability Mondays. My name's Paul Ribbons. This is John Cox. We'll see you next week. And listen, get involved in the comments section below. Just put down, what your thoughts are or what your challenges are. And if you're brave enough, and this is what I'm going to be challenging you on in the next few months, right, is to engage with us, because your fear of, someone might judge me on what I'm going to put down in the comments section. Don't fear it. Just put it down. Just be brave and put down something in there and saying, I want to be accountable for this. And then we'll look at the comments, and then we'll pull it up and we'll have a discussion about it. So but this is Paul Ribbons signing off, and thank you very much. And we'll see you next week.
Perfect. Have a great week, everyone. Catch you later. Cheers, Paul.
Thank you. Bye.